Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about him before, but I'm going to talk about him again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's the senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. And again, Denise is at 425-309-2318. Visit acmehomeswa.com right now. Don't wait. Thank you again for listening to the Quarterback Dadcast. So with that, let's get right to today's episode. All right, everybody. Hey, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast, and I am excited, if I could speak English this morning. We are recording on January 14th. We made our legal team, both of our agents, all of the investors, massive sarcasm coming at you. We finally got this next guest on, and we wanted to do it because for a couple reasons. One, he's a great guy. Two, he's got a heck of a background, which we're going to learn about. But they also have some big news launching next Friday, the January 21st, which we will hear about. But his name's Rob Talafous. He's spent 25 years in the CPG. That's not the Club Pro guy. That's consumer packaged goods world at Coke, Kraft Foods, Activision. And now he leads a team at Georgia Pacific, which does $2 billion annually, which is a lot of money. They do a ton of work for Costco, which I spend way too much money at every month. Married for 35 years. He has a hockey background. He's got a brother who played the NHL, all this stuff. I'm not going to keep going into that, but he's here because we're going to talk about Rob the dad. We're going to learn about Rob, how he has continued to strive to be that ultimate leader of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Talafous, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thanks, Casey. Appreciate you having me.
That was quite the intro, huh?
Wow. That was, I'm not sure where you got all that information. I don't make sure it's all true.
It was your agent. I mean, we've been trying to get you for years, and the agent finally, I paid him off, and he said he'd join you. So, joking aside, so we always start out each episode with, tell me, what are you most grateful for as a father today?
Yeah, I'm really, really grateful for my two girls. Just seeing the young women they've, come to be, and see them find a guy that is a good husband to them, and just see them happy. You always pray for your kids growing up that they be safe and that they'll find joy in their life once they leave your house. And for me to see my girls where they're at today with their husbands and their careers, couldn't make me a happier dad.
Oh, that's the best. I love that. I'm ready to experience that, but not ready to experience that because time's going by way too fast. I got a sophomore in high school and almost a freshman. And it's like, what the heck? Where did it go? I mean, I feel like I was just baby Bjorn rocking the neighborhood in Maple Valley. Now I'm middle-aged white dude, old dad guy now.
I know that feeling.
Well, I am most grateful today for my wife because my wife's had a little bit of a rough stretch health-wise. We're still trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And but she's so selfless. She is so gritty. She's tough. She's determined. And my son, God love him, he was struggling a little bit in one of his classes. And, my wife spent all day doing some tests at the doctor, but still found time to give our son Ryder all the attention in the world. And when I got home last night from taking my daughter to the high school basketball game, and they were working hard on the couch, and I could tell he was a little frustrated, and then she got frustrated, but then they kind of worked it out. And I was just so grateful to have a wife who is like all in on kids, I help in certain ways too, but she's definitely got the brains of the education. And was so I'm grateful for that. Watching that experience last night made me happy. Okay. So I want to hear, tell me, so who's in the Talafous huddle right now? We're empty nesters, but tell me who's on the team right now.
Yeah, so my wife Benita and I are, just the two of us here now at the house, and similar to you, I'm my wife is awesome, and she, did so much over the years with our girls and helped, kind of form them into the women they are today. She spent a lot of time with them. She was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, and now with just the two of us, we're loving life together. We're loving being empty nesters and kind of being able to do our own thing, but we're still really engaged and in time with our kids when we're able. Our oldest daughter, Anna, moved out, followed us out to the Northwest, and I met a guy out here, Mike, and they're married and live only about 25 minutes away from us. And so it's awesome having them out here. And then our youngest daughter, Megan, married a guy from Minnesota who ended up joining the Coast Guard, and they're down in Sonoma County in California. So both our girls and their husbands are now out on the West Coast, and the rest of our family, both sides of our family for the most part, are all back in Minnesota.
Wow. And no grandkids yet?
No grandkids yet.
How's grandma and how's not yet. How's mom and dad feeling about that? Are we ready to be grandparents?
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready. And I know our oldest daughter would, her and her husband both would like to, start a family. So, I'm expecting at some point here soon we will hopefully, be hearing some good news. So, but yeah, we're excited. We're ready. I always said I wanted to wait till after I was 50. So I would tell my girls, I don't want to be a grandpa until I'm after 50. And now I'm a few years past that, so I'm ready.
There we go. So I want to, before I go back, because I want to learn about how you grew up, but I saw Fargo. Bison fan?
I have become a little bit of a Bison fan, just because my daughter Anna went to a year of grad school there. She went across the river to Concordia in Moorhead, Minnesota. But she went there for a year, kind of was a Bison fan, and then just with their football success, at their level of Division I football and the success they've had, it's kind of been fun to see as well as they've done.
Yeah, for the listeners who don't know, we're talking about North Dakota State, the Bison from Fargo. It's one of the most unbelievable football programs. Rob, one of my clients when I worked at in the staffing consulting business for years was a guy named, shout out to Chris Barch, if you're listening, brother, I miss you. His family they're from Fargo. He diehard Bison fan. And so my former quarterback coach was Bo Baldwin, who went to Eastern. So the Eastern and North Dakota State always had these rivals. They found each other playing in the playoffs at times. So we kind of would always have that in common. We talk about it. But his brother would, I think I had the story right, he would buy tickets for the next year's national championship in Frisco that year. So they even started the season. He already bought tickets for next year's championship.
Confidence.
But they went every year. It's crazy. So I was always just so impressed by that program. Okay, so I want to go backwards. This is cool. I would say I've seen you Rob and I both play golf at an amazing golf course called Meridian Valley Country Club. Shout out to the members there. But I haven't had a chance to get to know you like this, so I'm excited to learn. Tell me about what life was like growing up for you, and then I'd love to learn more about how your parents impacted you, and then when you went into fatherhood.
Yeah, so I grew up I was born and raised in Hastings, Minnesota, which is just south of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area on the Mississippi River, Wisconsin border. And I, was really fortunate growing up in a great home. I was the youngest of 6 kids. My mom and dad had 5 kids in 8 years, and then 8+ years later had me. So my dad affectionately would call me Oops when I got a little older. So my siblings will laugh and say that I was kind of more of an only child. They were all, they said every meal they had was like hamburger. How many different ways could my mom make hamburger, whatever was cheapest to make, and they'd come by after they moved out of the house, and I'd be having steak, or I'd have a special meal that my mom made, and they always got jealous about that. But we still are a very close knit family. My parents have both passed on, but my 5 siblings and I are still very close. And but my mom and dad growing up were, just great parents. My dad was, a blue collar guy. He started out after the Army as a steel plant worker. Learned masonry skills, and worked at an oil refinery for years. And just a hardworking guy. People loved him. Great personality, and he was a good dad, good role model in terms of somebody who was loyal. And he always tried to encourage us. I mean, after sports, I had 2 other brothers, and 3 of us were all like 3-sport athletes. And he would always, after the game, he never talked to us about what we could have done better. He would say, "It was fun watching you guys play today," or "That was a tough loss. You guys tried hard," or he always was positive. He never tried to tell me I should have did something differently, or I didn't back check hard enough, or whatever. He was always a positive, just person to be around. When it came to sports, he'd get a little fired up in the stands watching them, but never to me. And then my mom was kind of the rock of our family. I'd get up in the morning and to get ready for school or whatever, and she'd be sitting at the table, smile on her face, her Bible open in front of her. She would read her Bible every morning. After I'd go to school, she would pray for each of her children, and as her family grew, to spouses coming in, to grandchildren, to great grandchildren, she would pray each morning for each individual in that, what we used to call her pyramid. So, but just that model for us of how much she loved us, that she'd spend that time every morning, was just a great example to me. And then also as I got older and got a little wiser, it just showed me how much she cared.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm intrigued because your dad was wise beyond his years. We've done multiple episodes on like youth sports, the overzealous parent. It's like, imagine you and I having a bad day at work, and then our mom or dad's driving home with us, telling us we could have typed faster, or we didn't handle that objection well enough, or God, you left that voicemail. You kind of stuttered over your words, Case. What was wrong with you? We wouldn't want that, but yet as parents, people are just drilling them on the way home, it's like this. They don't want to do it. So to see your dad back in what was that, the 60s?
Yeah, I was born in 65. So yeah. And he was with my brothers, who were 8 and 12 years older. So
it'd be interesting. Was he like that with your brothers too?
It's my understanding he was, from just conversations I've had with them. Again, he was a competitive guy. He was a good athlete. But he'd get fired up in the stands, usually at the umpires or the referees more than anything. He would never yell anything about any of the players, especially his own kids. So that seemed like it was pretty consistent across all 3 of us.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. There's a great article by a guy named Bruce Brown called The Nightmare Sports Parent. And essentially the advice he gives or writes about is essentially what your dad did. Was he says, "Man, I love watching you play." And if the article talks about, if your kid is truly competitive and what his or her sport, what they're doing means something to them, they'll bring it up to you. And I remember when Ryder, my son, was like 8, I tried it. I remember he made an error at whatever, and I was like, "Oh, dude, you could easily make that play. We've done all day." I'm like, just had to bite my lip. And sure as you know what, 2 days later, he said, "Dad, I'm so frustrated." I'm like, "Well, what's going on, buddy?" He's like, "Well, you remember that game 2 days ago where I did this and I should have." I'm like, "Oh my God, it worked." And so I remember from that, and then I, as much as sometimes I want to like say something, I just like, man, I'm so seeing your red face and the fact you competed and dove for balls on the ground. Awesome. Glad you had fun today. If you ever want to talk about the game, I'll be here, but it was fun watching you.
Yeah, and your memories, I can tell just from conversations with you and listening to some of your dad casts, but it's is much better than mine. But I remember hearing of a study done by like a college coach, I think in Montana somewhere, and he had interviewed all these athletes, college athletes, and about their youth sports days. And I think he, they asked, what would you like the most? What'd you like the least? And by far and away, the thing that came to the top of the list for what they liked the least, basically he summed up as a car ride home.
Yep.
And I just remember hearing that, and that's probably 10 years ago I heard about that, but it's I mean, I can see where that would be so true, because I've been around sports long enough to see even before the kids get to the car, they're already being coached by the parent on what they did wrong.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny. I look back, my parents, I don't ever remember them being like in my grill, or it was always my idea, which I think why luckily Uncle Rico moment coming here, why I was able to play in college. And I bet for you, because you were a college hockey player at the powerhouse St. Cloud State in Minnesota. Do you think the way your mom and dad raised you, and being around obviously some competitive siblings, is that what prepared you to play in college? Do you think?
I think it did to some extent, but I, having like my older brother, just seeing the success that he had in college, and then going on to play in the NHL. I mean, I think, my parents never really pushed me to, I was looking at different options and what I was going to do. Was I going to go play junior hockey and develop for a couple more years, because I was young for my graduating class? I mean, I graduated from high school and I still hadn't turned 18. But I think just the fact that they were okay with whatever I chose, whether I wanted to go play junior hockey and try to get to a Division I, program, or if I wanted to go, St. Cloud State at the time was a Division II program. Now they moved to Division I. But they never pressured me to do anything. They knew I wanted to play hockey in college, and they always would encourage me. We talked about it later. It may have been helpful to maybe have a little bit more guidance, and I sometimes think, well, maybe I should have went and played junior hockey and developed a little bit more, because that's really a big thing in hockey still today. We're a lot of the kids that are playing in the major Division I programs are coming in as 19, 20-year-old freshmen to start their college hockey career, versus being a guy that just turned 18. But my dad, I just remember him telling me, hey, Rob, St. Cloud State's offering you some money to go play there, even though it's Division II. And, I think you might want to just go that route instead of dealing with having to go, because I would have had to go down to Iowa, to Sioux City, Iowa, I think it was, the junior team. And he's like, I just don't know if you're ready to do that. So he did give me some advice in that manner. But anyway, they were always usually supportive of whatever us kids decided to do.
That's awesome. I think every time I talk to dads, I get therapy from this, which I selfishly love. And we've talked multiple times about, it's not our journey. We just, like as a sales leader, you don't need to be the smartest in the room. It's about developing your people, helping their critical thinking skills, asking questions, being curious. I think the same thing for dads. I've learned from so many people about and reminding myself, and no matter what I'm doing, but it's not my journey. Right? I can't force my kid to be a better geometry. I can't force them to be a better golfer. I can't force my daughter to be the best free. I mean, they got to put the work in. And I think by talking to folks like yourself and all these other amazing dads I've talked to, just staying centered and grounded in that thought I'm so thankful for that. So appreciate you sharing. Okay, so I want to understand, when you're, as you think about the life of an empty nester, which I love getting dads on with the experience. So younger dads, get pen and paper out. This is a chance to get some wisdom from Rob. As you think about, when you raised your two daughters, and they're out of the house now, talk about what lessons did you learn from your parents that you applied that worked with raising your daughters?
That's a good question. For us, it was, we were fortunate in some ways, but I was, in my career, I was kind of got on a track with Kraft Foods, and where they told me, Rob, we think we're gonna promote you and move you every 2 years, get you more responsibility, and you're gonna have to move around the country. So I give that as a little background, but because of that, we knew we were going to be moving frequently and all of that. So we made a decision my wife and I, to have her be a stay-at-home mom. Her and I went to the same university, met in college and everything, and she was looking at going to get her graduate degree when we found out we were expecting, and then I got this job, and just everything kind of pointed towards doing this, and allowing her to be able to stay home for a number of those years while the kids were younger, and she could be there with them. And that really was, I was blessed, like I said, with a wonderful mom, and she was a stay-at-home mom for most of the years, in my younger years, and again, just having her there, and just, I just was very fortunate to know that, when I came home from school, got off the bus, and we actually used to walk by ourselves all the way from, 2 blocks away or the corner, and parents weren't sitting there waiting to pick us up, but I knew when I got home she was going to be there. And so we just, really, for my wife and I, just, I was traveling a lot in my role, and so wasn't around as much. So, kind of the old, when I was home, to have that quality time, just trying to get on the floor with the kids and play, and spend time with them, give my wife a little break. Just that's kind of what my mom and dad were like. My dad maybe wasn't as much of a big kid as I am. I mean, I still get down on the floor and play with my nieces and nephews' children, and neighbor kids, but my dad, when he was present, let's go throw the ball around, or he would really engage with me. And but really, it was my mom was the one that was around most of the time, and that was a similar situation in our house, where my wife really, was with the girls a lot, and it shows in what great women they are today.
Love it. Talk about the affection from your parents growing up. Were you a lot of I love yous, or was it, because some families are different with that, I think, in generational. I'm just curious.
Yeah, my mom was an I love you. I'm gonna hug you every chance I get, and she just was a very affectionate person, and was always willing to speak right from her heart. And my dad was from that generation, where he, I could probably count on one hand the number of times he told me he loved me. But I knew he loved me, and in his actions, and again, he's worked in some tough environments, and around some tough guys, and my dad was also a guy that he didn't like swearing, but he worked in environments where there was a lot of swearing. So, like, in our house, there was, you were very careful about what you said, because he didn't like anybody to be swearing around him when he was in his home. But he wasn't very affectionate, on his deathbed. Even then, it was hard for him to tell each of his kids and family members that he loved them. I mean, I think it was just, everybody knew it, and but it was just, I think it was just that generation. I'm going to show you I love you, and how hard I work, and how I provide for you. And when I'm home, we're going to go throw the ball around, and I'm going to come and watch your games, when I can. And but anyway, I don't think that's very different from somebody that grew up in my generation and how their dad was.
Yeah, no, I think it's some. I've interviewed some folks who you kind of get the outlier, kind of like I think how your dad was with regards to how he handled after game stuff, which I think is awesome. And my dad was born in 42. I'm dedicated, as probably and of those that don't, my father passed away on December 29th of 2021, and the season 3 is dedicated to him. And my dad was not a he's a great dude, hilarious. I mean, really bizarre sense of humor, which is, I probably get a lot of that, like just random one-liners. But he was not a massive affectionate guy either. I don't feel like I was neglected or it was negative. I don't remember like tons of hugs and love you. And for me, I didn't want that. I wanted my kids to know, like, it is so normal to say, I love you. It's so, give you a hug in front of your buds. And you're like, why wouldn't I do that? I'm your freaking dad. And I want that to be the norm. And like this morning, gave my son, hey, hugged, hey, love you, dude. Way to work hard. I'm going to be on this podcast. Make sure. And I went and found my daughter, told her too. Then I just feel like those are like little choices, there's a book called The Slight Edge. I don't know if you've ever read it by Jeff Olson. Great book about, for me, like if I could take these slight edge moments where I had a choice, I could either go say I love you, warms my heart, fills my soul, or I'll see him after school. And I chose the other one, and I think if I can help dads through this podcast realize that it's normal to do that types of things. It doesn't mean you're a wuss. And even like when my dad passed away, my kids saw dad cry, which I loved to be able to show them. And I loved them I loved them seeing me that, like, hey, this is emotion. It's normal. And yesterday I picked up my dad's ashes. Super surreal process. And it's funny, actually, I didn't get as sad that day. I was more like I feel like my dad's sense of humor came out. Like I was like, hey, Dad, ready to go for a ride? Had him in the front seat with me. And, but yeah, I think I'm intrigued to see what, the affection in your house. Cause I think that's an interesting topic that I've seen multiple dads, talk about in previous episodes.
Yeah, I think, similar to how you approached it, that's really how I try to be with my girls. And still am. I mean, when they, even like if we text at the end of our text string, that the topic, we always finish with, love you, or, when they come to the house, it's when they leave, it's always a hug and, I love you. And so I definitely am more like my mom in that aspect, but it's also purposeful that I tell them that, and their whole life, I've been like that with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen their dad cry too. So
Are you a crier in movies?
Not really. I'm probably more apt to cry in a movie than my wife is. And it's a sense, her and I have a little, we laugh a little bit about it sometimes if there's an emotional part at the end of a show and it's a little bit corny, but I'll, she'll say something I'll go, hang on, I gotta compose myself here. I can't talk right now. And she'll be like, are you serious? And I'll be like, no, not this time. But because sometimes it is, sometimes I do get the heartstrings and I'll be a little bit more emotional about certain shows than she will be.
Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the absolute worst. Like maybe Golden Girls, Betty White. I mean, I'd tear up in Golden Girls, Punky Brewster, Facts of Life.
Wow.
I mean, not like that. I'm being sarcastic, but like we were early in the pandemic. We were, the first time we traveled was like October 2020. My mom turned 70. We were in Phoenix and we were staying at this hotel. There's no one there. And my kids were doing like online school from the bar because that was the only place they could sit. I was like, this feels weird, but they obviously weren't serving drinks, but they could just work there in the bar. And, but I remember at night we had some like just awesome family time. And we watched I think we watched movies 3 nights in a row. I can't tell you what movie there were, but like, it was like this athletic, kind of like a Hoosiers type ending. And I'm like a freaking mess on the bed. And my daughter's like, Dad, are you crying? I'm like, yeah, leave me alone. Stop being a bully. And so my kids just bust my chops all the time about, oh boy, Dad's gonna start crying again in the movie. I'm like, hey, but I mean, and it's funny to me. It's like it more builds relationships. I'll be the butt of the joke if it helps them communicate and talk, and then hopefully when they get old enough to see like, hey, wait a minute, I guess it's okay to do that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Okay, so for the dads that are not empty nesters yet, but are getting close. I mean, I'm not close, but it's in the distance. Talk about your job description changed from, no kids to kids. So you went almost from like caregiver to coach to now are you like a consultant? Are you still, how is your role as a dad now?
Yeah, I mean, I actually my girls both, they'll come to me more for their career, and making decisions about what they're going to do, and especially my oldest daughter, she's kind of in a similar career than I've been in. She's in the consumer packaged goods world, and has been for a few years now, and been with some different companies, and so her and I can relate to her what she's doing professionally, and I understand the makeup of the teams that she's on, and all those things. So I'm more of a coach and consultant, as far as her career, and my younger daughter, she's in a field that I don't really have any expertise in quality assurance with software, and but I try and be an encourager for her as she's gotten increasing more responsibility. She's now managing people for the first time, so things like that. So I'm more involved in that aspect, where my wife is more involved in other aspects like their relationships with their husband, and things like that. She's more involved in those things. But I try to be an encourager to both of them in just their lives in general.
Mm-hmm.
But that's again, I think more my role is, they'll reach out for me once in a while just to talk and want to connect. And my daughter in California, like we have she calls it daddy daughter dates over the FaceTime or whatever, just so her and I can have one-on-one time. So I really appreciate those moments, and the fact that they want to just have that time with their dad.
Yeah, man, I am not ready to experience kids out of the house. I just, because I think if I'm going to tear up after a good episode of Punky Brewster, when my kids leave, or like when my daughter gets married, look out. I cannot, either I'm going to have definitely a few beers in me to kind of chill me out, but if my fear is if I have too many beers, then I'm just be a blubbering mess. Like, why is your
Find
dad
the right
balling?
balance.
I know. As you think back, journey as a dad, obviously you and Benita did a heck of a job. They got jobs, they're married, they're loving their career, they're healthy. I mean, that you couldn't ask for more than that. Talk about like what was maybe one of the highlights, as a dad that you look back and it's like your one or two memories that you always go to that just is just so fun to kind of relive. Hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods, who continue to be just an amazing loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit catchsitkaseafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafood. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we've and for me, it's been as they've gotten older. I mean, there's so many when they're little, right? I mean, I could talk about all the fun things we did, but as the girls got a little older, and even like in high school, and maybe one in high school, one's in college, but we would always try to take a trip every year together. And even when they got into college, it was like, they're going to have different spring break times or whatever. But I just remember us taking a trip, and going down to Cabo, and we just being able to be down there together and hang out and relax. And they were older now, and so we'd go out and maybe have a couple of beverages and at dinner, and just be silly afterwards. Just even walking back from the restaurant, I just remember that just all of us just belly laughing, laughing till we cried in a good way, and just sitting around and in the condo and just telling stories and playing games and playing music and having little dance parties, and just that time as they were even in their teens and early 20s, that we would still just love to get together and laugh and have fun, and just those are the memories that are most special to me.
What's your go-to dance move?
Oh boy. I wish I could say, I always kid around. I say I'm more of a freestyle guy. you know,
Cardboard, like breakdancing?
no, none of that. So no,
We'll get you some on the putting greens. The member guest.
yeah, well, the guys at Meridian Valley that know me, they know I have they know I have a win-win-win dance, from,
Oh, there we go.
that I do a little move with the waving the arms, and it drives people nuts. But no, on the dance floor, it's, I'll break out a little Travolta if I need to, I can do a little chubby checker, a little twist. I got all the moves.
Nice. I sometimes I like sneaking in some R&B, like the little Roger Rabbit and the Running Man. Like most mid 40-year-old guy can't do that, but I'll surprise people. You know who's also got moves is Gamba.
I can believe that.
Yeah, that's where his calves are so big from just the dancing. So he's a horse's neck. Do you know that?
I did not.
That's an inside joke. So his dad passed away too. My dad Steve was awesome, actually, very supportive when my dad passed. And my dad would say the phrase "shut it up" to us kids, which made no sense. Like, what does "shut it up" mean? It's not even grammar. And he would drop the most amazing GD bombs at us, Rob. So like when he'd get frustrated, lose his patience, God damn it, Casey, shut it up. And we're like, what does that mean? So then me and my sister would start laughing, and then it would make it worse. And so Gamba was laughing about that. And then he told me his dad would call him, instead of calling him a horse's ass, he'd call him a horse's neck. And so Gamba, sorry if I'm sharing your story, but that was hilarious. So I'll text him just a horse, picture of a horse, so we have.
I love it. I'll remember that one.
Okay. So as dads, the one thing I enjoy when talking to dads on this show is we're all flawed. We all got gaps. No one's perfect. There's obviously ways for us to get better. I have to be super self-aware about patience and not reacting. And so I think I've improved there. A long way to go. That's my gap. As you look back on your dad journey that maybe other fathers at home could relate to, talk about an area your dad game where you maybe struggled that you wanted to work on, and you then maybe did get better that maybe other dads at home could relate to.
Yeah, I think I mentioned a little earlier about the quality of time, and early in my career, I was really focused on my career, and there's a window of time there where I made it more important in the priority list than I should have, and so I think just that kind of getting distracted and making excuses that it's okay to do that because my wife gets to stay home with the kids, because I'm making enough money so she doesn't have to work, and my kids will understand that, and just kind of went through probably I think it's 2 years. I don't know if my wife would say it's longer, but I went through a stretch where I was definitely had my priorities out of whack. Not only just family but my faith. Work had kind of risen to the top, and I needed a little bit of a jolt to get me back refocused on things, and I regret that I let climbing the ladder and trying to make more money and stuff, that I kind of lost a little time there where I should have been more engaged with my girls, and but that to me is probably the biggest example of what I can think of, because I'm flawed. I've done things I'm not proud of, I'm sure, but I, from day one when they were born, I mean, I've always, like I said, been trying to be really present when I can be, and
Mm-hmm.
just tell them I love them and all those things. But I did have that stretch where my priorities got a little out of whack.
I love the vulnerability and honesty. Thank you, man. And I think that's what I love. My goal when I started this thing three years ago. Shout out to Ty Nunez for getting this thing going, brother. is getting dads to say that stuff, because it's not always easy to say it. But once we say it, I know there's a dad at home that's listening right now that'll be like, I'm going down the same path. So what, do you remember what age the girls were at when that happened?
So let's see, they would have been about 6 and 9.
Okay. And do you remember the tipping point that triggered Rob to say, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? What am I doing?
Yeah, it's yeah, it was a tough situation for me. I mean, I was at Kraft Foods at their headquarters, and I'd already moved all over. I went Fargo, Seattle, New Orleans, Portland, and then to Chicago, all within a 7-year span.
Wow.
And so, but getting to the corporate headquarters and just trying to climb the ladder and looking at what track I wanted to go, climb through the headquarters, get back out and run a region, all these things. And I started having like panic attacks. Like I didn't know what they were, but I was feeling lightheaded often in meetings, and I was working long hours, probably wasn't eating the best, and traveling a lot, and really focused on the work side of things, and ended up at a work dinner and started feeling like a little pain in the chest, and feeling lightheaded again, and ended up that night, to shorten the story, ended up, that night spending the night in the hospital. My wife and daughters were back in Minnesota at the time, visiting her parents and family. So I was by myself in this hospital bed, and, going to have a stress test in the morning. They're going to monitor me overnight, all these things, not sure what's going on. And I'm laying there in bed, and I'm just like, God, what, just see me through this. I want to see my wife and kids again. I didn't know how bad it was, or
right.
if it was bad. And, but the image I had in my head was, me sitting on a throne and Jesus at my feet. And what jumped in my head was, you got the wrong guy on the throne. And that was the turning point for me, as I laid there overnight and thought about it and prayed about things, and is that my job had become number one, and my family number two, and my faith a distant third. Even though I was going to church every Sunday with my wife and everything, but that moment in time, that was a wake up call, and I really came out of that where I got to reprioritize, reprioritize my life.
Yeah.
So, since that happened in 1996, I have not had another panic attack. I've tried to keep my priorities of faith and family, ahead of my career. I think I've done a good job of that for the most part. But anyway, that was a tipping point for me, where I just realized, I'm not spending time with my kids. I'm not spending time with my wife. I'm not making them a priority. And so it was it's not a fun wake up call, but it worked.
Wow. That's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing. I had a mentor. Well, I don't talk to him often, but I consider him one. He's super smart dude. His name's John Kaplan. He has this phrase. He says, it's okay not to know every answer. It's just not okay not to do anything about it. And so powerful to say you need help, or, hey, what's going on? Or, and when you're telling that story, you made me go flashback to when my son was, he could have been more than 18 months old, 16 months old, whatever. And I remember I was in a very stressful sales job, corporate guy. I wasn't into leadership yet, but I was in just producing complex, had a lot of playing quarterback in the business world, Uncle Rico, another moment there. And I remember leaving at like, 6 a.m. The sun wasn't up yet, getting home at 6:45, and he'd go to bed at 7. We were very on a schedule, which shout out to my wife. Best thing she ever did. One of the best things she ever did. I was getting 15 minutes with my son every day. I'm like, this is horrible. Why? I was, top guy at our company from a sales perspective. I should feel great. Life's great. But I was miserable because I didn't feel like I was being a good dad. Didn't feel like I was being a good kid. I was like, I was barely getting bath time. I'm like, this is not. And I remember went to my boss at the time, Angela Ronica. And I said, Ange, I said, this is not working. I said, I need to figure something out where I can be like, yeah, you guys love this side of Casey, but at home, I'm not the Casey I want to be. And I remember she said, well, let's change your hours. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, leave at 4. I trust you. You'll figure it out. I'm like a banker? I'm like, I can't do that. She's like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, okay. And, if I don't go ask her, we don't come to that conclusion. But literally from that day on, Rob, probably 95% of the time, I didn't care what I had going on, unless it was like massively important. Like I'd leave at 4 and I would still, hey guys, I'll be on the phone. I got to get home. So then I would be home from like 5 to 7. It was legit family time. And rarely would I take a phone call between 5 and 7, unless it was massively important, because I don't know if your phone number is this, but my phone number is not 911. I'm not that important. Right. We as business people think, oh, we're so important. No, you're not. Like I always love telling people I coach now, like I was the number one dude at K-Force for 10 years straight. If there's probably 50% of the people of that company have no idea who I am. No idea. And they're doing awesome. They're doing better than they've ever done. And I'm so the world goes on. Like we're not that important. We think we are, but we're not, And so for me, my balance got out of whack. And then when I was so focused on that, my career went to another level because I was present. I was centered. I was a focused wife, husband. I was spiritually centered. I was being a good dad. I had my priorities right. I could make time for exercise, and simple choices. But I think what kind of you did and when I did, when you just ask for help and kind of just be honest with yourself about what's going on, you can get to the truth a lot quicker than just pretending the stuff's not happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. That was awesome. Okay. In the time we have left, this gentleman who I'm talking to, everybody, played the Masters. What the hell? How did that happen?
So just to clarify, I didn't play in the Masters, but I did play Augusta National Golf Club. Unbelievable story, actually. I always tell people it was by double default because I was working for Coca-Cola. I was running their Target stores business. And then Coca-Cola had a relationship with a member at Augusta National, and they were allowed to bring a handful of top customers every year to come down and play. So we had 2 senior vice presidents from Target that were going to come down and play with this member, and then they were going to play with the president of North America for Coca-Cola, a guy named Jack Stahl, who went on to be the CEO of Revlon. But we were going to fly out on a Monday. I was going to fly with him out of Minneapolis. We were going to go to Coke headquarters in Atlanta, have a meeting there, and then the president and the 2 Target guys were going to head to Augusta. So on Friday, before that Monday, our CEO, Coca-Cola, resigns. So kind of out of the blue. So there's an emergency board meeting. So the president's not going to be able to go to Augusta. He's going to have to be at the corporate office. So he gets a hold of my boss on the weekend and says, hey, you're going to have to go in my place with the Target guys. Well, my boss, guy named Paul Murphy, wonderful guy. Murph's like, I'm not a very good golfer at all. I'm a horrible golfer. It would be embarrassing. He said, but Rob is the guy that deals with these guys, that knows these guys, and he's a decent golfer. Let's let Rob go. And Jack Stahl's like, okay, you let him know. So he calls me at home on a Sunday, and he's like, hey, why don't you bring your golf clubs down when you fly down tomorrow? And I'm like, well, what's going on? I go, this is not funny, Murph. This is not something you kid around about. He goes, no, but you are by double default, you are going to go with the Target guys to Augusta National. And so we went there.
Were you wearing Depends at the time?
What's
were
that?
Were you wearing Depends when you got that phone call?
I wish I had been. But it was pretty unbelievable. We had dinner there. We got to tour everything. We got to go in the wine cellar, the Crow's Nest. We stayed in the cabins overnight, had breakfast, lunch, played 27 holes. Just a dream come true. I mean, the guys I play a lot with here and I played with in Minnesota. I mean, everywhere I go, if somebody brings it up, I mean, it's usually an hour-long conversation or over drinks or dinner, and people just keep asking questions. I mean, the stories are just I mean, there's just so many stories. They're so awesome. It was such a great
Wow.
experience.
I massively jealous, envious, but so cool. I have like 7 hours of questions about that experience, which I'll delay because I know that we got to make sure we stay on time with this episode. Um, okay, as you think back to everything we've talked about today, I always like dads to leave with like something of action that they can focus on to be that ultimate, improve their leadership skills, become that ultimate quarterback of their household. As a play on word. So, in summarizing, Rob, what we talked about today, what would be 2 or 3 things that you would say have worked for you as a father to be that ultimate hands-on, present quarterback? You also tell me what you'd share with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and a lot of this goes back to my roots and my family, and just obviously experiences, but depending on where people are at. But for me personally, I mean, pray for your kids, pray for your kids. Be present as much as possible. Um, Tell them you love them a lot, and you know they're going to make mistakes, and they don't want to relive them. So try to be more of an encourager, and help them move on from those versus relive them. And I'm a big fan of the power of a hug. I mean, sometimes you don't need words. I mean, just sometimes they just
Mm,
need a hug and know they're loved and cared for, and there's no words needed to coach at that point. And I think in our hearts we know when it's those points when it's just a hug is needed.
love that. Love that. That's so powerful, man. It's sometimes I think as parents, you feel like you got to get that extra word in, that one last piece of advice, but they're hearing you. They're not sure as hell listening to you.
That's right.
And you know but sometimes just I love that power of a hug. Don't coach, just love them. So good. Hopefully everyone's taking notes. I got a page full of notes here. Okay, so we got a big announcement coming. So you're an investor, not in an animal company. People think it is, but it's not. It's called Hamster Golf. Tell us what Hamster Golf is and why should we be excited?
Yeah, so hamster golf is something that's just kind of developed out of our a group of guys that I golf a lot with at Meridian Valley. So there's 5 of us, and
Should we give them
and
some love? Who are those gentlemen? Should we?
yeah, so Mike Abrahamson, Abe, and Robert Culp, TC Smacala, and Rodney Limbeck, and those guys are great, and they're hamsters for sure. But it really developed out of Abe has kind of had this thing over the years where when he was bartending down in California when he was a lot younger. He and this guy would you do something kind of silly, and you hamster, what you do that for? Or so, and he's kind of taken that over the years, and when you're golfing with him, he just uses that term a lot. So we all started using the term, like if you're playing a match against somebody and you go good, and if the guy says okay, then that guy wins the hole. The guy who asked for it is a hamster. You don't ask for good for you to win the hole. Or your buddy's getting ready to tee off, and he's on the other team, and you say, just ignore that pond over there. Just whatever you do, stay away from that pond. Just hit the green stuff. You're a hamster for bringing that up right before a guy's going to tee off. And so it's just the banter of golf, and the shenanigans and things that people do. So being a hamster is not a bad thing. I mean, it can be a little irritating to the guy who's kind of involved. Can kind of be, we call it mean funny sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But we like to say that hamsters always get invited back for the next round. You don't want to be a gerbil. Gerbils are the guys that are just like, I don't care if I ever play with that guy again. So we just decided to kind of take that camaraderie of golf and the banter and shenanigans and give it a name. So we're calling it Hamster Golf, and we're out there now, active on social media, just kind of having some fun with some video content, and trying to get the word out a little bit. But then next Friday, the 21st, we're going to launch our online store, and we're going to have, we're going to sell shirts, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts. We're actually designing custom made polos that'll be the quality of like a Straight Down or a FootJoy. I actually got the sample last week, and but it's kind of our deal is going to be hidden hamsters. So it's going to be like like you could have a camo shirt and our hamster logo would be hidden throughout it. You wouldn't know it's there unless you tell somebody. But so that's going to kind of be something we have some fun with. So we'll spend time over happy hours, looking at designs from our marketing agency and picking out what we want to do for shirts. So kind of gives us something fun to do on the side. We all have regular jobs. Except for Culp, but that's another story. But anyway, but we just have a good time with it, and we've got a great marketing agency out of Issaquah we're working with, and they've been fun, and they've really embraced doing this for us. We want it to be really turnkey, so. But we're really excited. We don't know. We all say we just hope it funds our golf habit. Maybe we take one cool golf trip a year with the hamsters, or maybe it'll help with our bill at Meridian Valley. Whatever. We're just having fun with it, doing it on the side.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so when this episode comes out, it's going to be the day before January 20th. And so if people want to sign up or learn, where do we send them?
Just go to hamstergolf.com.
Okay.
And that website will go live on the 21st. If you go there on the 20th, you can sign up. There's like a splash page you'll get to, and you can give them your name and your email address, and you'll get a discount when the store opens up the next day that you can use. And otherwise, we're on social media. So if you go to Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, you can go out there and kind of see some of our content now, some of the funny videos, but really the splash page at hamstergolf.com is the best place to start.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to get myself some hamster gear. You guys going to sell half shirts, you think?
We're not going to sell half shirts. We're going to let Gerbil Golf sell those. You can cut
Perfect.
one off though.
Perfect. Okay. So now we do is we go into what's called the lightning round. It's the equivalent of me again, Uncle Rico moment, playing quarterback, going 2-minute offense. Your job is to answer questions as quickly as you can. My job is to be as random as I can to hopefully get a giggle out of you.
All right.
All right. You already laughed. Doesn't count.
I'm already laughing, so we're done.
Doesn't count. Okay. True or false? Your brother was a better hockey player than Wayne Gretzky.
False.
Best hockey movie ever.
Well,
your choices are okay. Miracle on Ice.
Give me choices?
Yeah, Miracle on Ice, Slapshot. I'm even going to throw in Strange Brew from the hockey scene.
Well, all very good movies, but I love Miracle, but I would have to go with Slapshot. It's just a classic.
Love it. If you have not seen Slapshot, have you seen Strange Brew?
Yes.
24 Elsinore beers, please. Take off A, you hoser. If I went into your phone, what would be the last song played?
The last song played would be Thomas Rhett, Be a Light.
There we go. Like that. True or false? You're going to put the hamster golf logo on your lower back.
False.
False. Okay. Just want to clear that up for people.
But Abe might.
Abe might.
Sorry, Abe.
Sorry. If I came to your house tonight, I know you're not cooking. What's Benita going to serve us?
Oh man, she's such a good cook. If you were coming over tonight, you and your wife, she would probably make something cool. Like she'd probably do like scallops, sautéed scallops on like a Parmesan risotto on a bed of like wilted spinach.
God, Benita,
she'd probably do it up right.
God, does she work for the Food Network?
Yeah, I mean,
Head
she
chef.
has. Yeah, she makes some really good stuff.
If there was, so I have a random scallop story real quick that completely has nothing to do with this, but we'll tell you that in a second. If there was to be a book written about your life, what would be the title?
Wow. I'm going to go with Mistakes Were Meant to Be.
Love it. And now that book is hit, and it's a New York Times bestseller. It's in every airport. People can't wait to read it. Now they're reading it. Now Hollywood finds out about it. We're making a movie. Tell me who's going to star you in this movie.
Wow. I'm going to go, I'm just thinking, because I'm 6'4.5", so I'm thinking big, tall guys that, I'm going to go with somebody who I think is funny and maybe handsome. So I'm going to go with Ben Affleck.
Oh, there we go. I thought you were going to say Chevy Chase.
I'm not that old.
Okay. And then last question. describe 2 words that, or tell me 2 words that describe your wife.
Wow. Beautiful and grounded.
Love it. Love it. The lightning round's over. You made it out of it. I did get a little bit of a giggle. It was random. Rob, this is a blast. I'm so honored and thankful that you decided to spend some time with me today. I learned a lot. I hope other dads at home learned a lot today. If people, we mentioned hamstergolf.com. We're gonna link that. If people want to learn more about the consumer packaged goods industry, they want to learn about what you do at Georgia Pacific. They want to learn about what we got going there. They want to just follow you on social media. What's the best way that people can learn more about you?
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I would say, via LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way to connect with me personally. So I would recommend that's the best way to connect.
Cool. I will make sure that your LinkedIn is tagged. I want to take a minute to say thank you so much to my friends at Catch Sitka Seafoods. My boy Assam, you continue to amaze me every time I order fish from you. My family he's turned my daughter, who, quote, she calls herself a pizzatarian, which I've joked about before. I didn't know what that was until my daughter told me, but she now loves cod. She loves halibut. She loves their smoked salmon. We are big customers of theirs. I think I would encourage you guys, if you like seafood, please give them a chance to go to catchsitkaseafoods.com. And you want to get the freshest fish, the easiest way to cook it. They give you this nice baking card that just is, I think, super simple. And then a huge shout out to our other sponsor, Acme Homes, Washington. They have some amazing homes in North Seattle and some great projects in Eastern Washington as well. Bob Cumming is a former college teammate of mine, and the guy's just doing a heck of a job, one of the best home builders in the state of Washington. So I kind of say thank you guys so much for putting your names behind this podcast, as we're looking to continue to inspire dads to just find ways to get a little bit better, to hopefully positively impact the future generations to come. So Rob, again, thanks again for spending some time with me this morning. I appreciate it, brother, and enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be looking for you out at Marine Valley soon, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you, Casey.
Yep.